It began in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where the air smelled of freshly cut grass, and everyone waved as they passed by. Richard and his wife Carol had lived there for 25 years. Their house was modest, but filled with memories, laughter, old photos, and the smell of coffee every morning. Next door lived Tom, a kind man with a quick smile, always ready to lend a tool or share a story over the fence. He was more than a neighbor. He was a friend. When Richard hurt his back last winter, Tom shoveled his driveway without being asked. When Carol baked pies, she always saved one for Tom. In a world that felt distant and busy, Tom was a reminder that good neighbors still existed. Then, one spring morning, Carol's mother fell ill in another state. They had to leave, quickly, and for an unknown time. They needed someone to watch the house, someone they could trust. Richard didn't think twice. "Tom," he said, holding out a spare key. "We'll be gone a week, maybe 2. Can you look after the place?" Tom smiled warmly. "Of course, Richard." "I'll treat it like my own home," Carol added. "There'll be a few packages coming." "Just bring them inside, please." Tom nodded. "You can count on me." And with that, they left, comforted by the thought that their home was in safe hands. A week passed, then another. The trip was long and tiring, filled with hospital visits and sleepless nights. But at last, Carol's mother began to recover. When they finally drove home, the neighborhood looked peaceful. The grass cut, the mailbox empty, the porch swept. "He really did take care of things," Carol said softly. Inside, everything seemed fine. Until Carol frowned. "Richard," she said quietly, "did you move the vase from the mantel?" "No, why?" "Because it's gone." He looked around, puzzled. "Maybe you packed it away?" "No," she said, her voice trembling a little. "It was here before we left." They searched the living room. The vase, a family heirloom, had vanished. Then Richard checked his cabinet, the one where he kept his small collection of coins. Half were missing. A cold silence filled the room. "It can't be," Richard said softly. "Tom wouldn't." Carol shook her head. "No, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe we misplaced them, but they both knew. Things like that don't just disappear." That night, Richard sat in his office, staring at the small security camera feed. They hadn't used it in years. A leftover from when he worked night shifts. He clicked through the recordings from the week they were gone. Day 1, Tom picking up packages, smiling. Day 2, watering the plants. Day 3, nothing unusual. Then, on the 4th night, around 10 p.m., Tom appeared again, this time with a flashlight. He unlocked the door, looked around cautiously, and walked straight toward the living room. Richard leaned closer, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. Tom opened the cabinet, took the coin boxes, and filled his pockets. Then he lifted the vase from the shelf, the vase that was now missing, and carried it out wrapped in a towel. Richard froze. Carol gasped, her hand over her mouth. "Oh, Richard, not him," he whispered. He looked me in the eye and promised to protect our home. The footage ended, and with it, their faith in the man next door. To be continued. In part 2, Richard confronts Tom, and the truth reveals how fragile trust can be. The next morning, Richard didn't eat breakfast. The coffee sat cold on the table. The air was heavy, filled with disbelief and hurt. He stood at the window, watching Tom trim his hedge, as if nothing had happened. Carol whispered, "What are you going to do?" Richard replied quietly, "What I have to." He walked across the lawn. Each step felt heavier than the last. Tom looked up, cheerful as ever. "Hey there, neighbor. Back so soon?" Richard's voice was calm. "We need to talk." Tom frowned slightly. "Sure, about what?" Richard handed him a small flash drive. "About this." Tom hesitated, confused, then plugged it into his laptop. As the footage played, his expression changed, from confusion to shock, then to shame. "Richard, I can explain," he stuttered. "I wasn't stealing, I just—" "You took our vase," Richard interrupted quietly. "You took my coins. You took our trust." Tom's shoulders slumped. "Please don't tell anyone. I'll return everything." Richard's voice broke slightly. "You can return the objects, Tom, but not the friendship." By evening, the police had arrived. The missing items were found in Tom's garage. Richard didn't press charges. He simply said, "Let him live with what he's done." Within days, Tom's house went up for sale, and by the end of the month, he was gone. The street felt quieter after that, not because of noise, but because of trust that had been broken, silently and deeply. Months passed. Richard repaired the small cracks in the walls, replaced the old locks, and tried to move on. One afternoon, a moving truck pulled up next door. A young couple stepped out, smiling nervously, holding a pie. "Hi, we're the Parkers," they said. "We just moved in." Richard smiled back, but paused before replying. "Welcome to the neighborhood." He meant it, but behind his kind eyes was a quiet caution, the kind that only comes after betrayal. That night, as the sun set over the quiet street, Richard sat on his porch and whispered, "You can forgive, but you never forget who had your key." Morale: not every friend is trustworthy. Be kind, be generous, but never blind. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers, but from the people you thought you could trust forever. Thank you for listening to The Neighbor Who Was Trustworthy in Vain. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who's learned the cost of misplaced trust. Tell me in the comments, have you ever trusted someone who let you down? Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional true life stories about honesty, forgiveness, and lessons we never forget. Until next time, trust wisely, forgive slowly, and guard your heart with love and wisdom. Add a final comment at the end and subscribe to the channel in a warm, friendly style.